Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to more Gundam Building. This is the Aile Strike Gundam. Again, last time we were here, we were working on the legs and the feet, but we're going to be continuing on. Now, again, like I said in the last video, I didn't realize that I screwed up the recording with my camera. So, effectively, what I was doing was I had my camera hooked up to OBS to record, as you do. And what I didn't realize that was going on was I screwed up. The audio was picking up from my camera, not my microphone. So it kind of sounded like I was underwater. So overall, it kind of sounded like crap. So to fix that, I am now recording through my microphone proper. So I do apologize if there is any disconnect. We did do this previously with the last video, and I think overall it turned out very well. So we're gonna give this another run. Anyway, going back into it. So the original recording, I was talking about the Mafia game, the new one, Mafia Old Country, and we were also discussing House of the Dead, the remake, which, honestly, in my opinion, the remake was disappointing, but we're going to get into that in a moment. So let's go ahead and start off with Mafia. Mafia the Old Country released maybe about a month ago, and of course, gaming journalists being gaming journalists were bitching that apparently the game wasn't political enough. In my opinion, games don't need to be political. Now, if the game wants to have its own politics, like in the sense of, you know, its universe, like as I discussed previously, the Helghast, for example, having their own, you know, political angle and the way they interact internationally with the ISA, that's all fair game. That's all well and good. I personally have no problem with a game doing stuff like that. Overall, that's world building, and I don't have a problem with it. What I have a problem with is when a game needs to remind us that our world is shit, for lack of a better word. So every time a game decides that it needs to remind us of, for example, take a game like Dustborn. It was, for lack of a better word, a shitty game that focused way too much on modern politics. Literally, its developer straight up said that this was a game made out of hatred for Donald Trump. Now, regardless of whether or not you like the president, regardless if you're in support of the man, regardless of how you feel, I'm sorry, in my opinion, I do think Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. And if you are really so hung up on the president that it's actually affecting the way you produce a video game, yeah, I really think you need that's a problem you need to fix within yourself at that point, in my humble opinion. But I digress. They were complaining that wasn't political enough. In my opinion, it's the Mafia series. It doesn't need to be political. It isn't a political game. It's basically just, you know, the Goodfellas or Bronx Tale as a video game. That's all it is. And honestly, that's all it should ever be. That is all it ever needs to be. It's an enjoyable story about a character who is just trying to make, you know, their life better one way or another, take care of their family, things like that. That is all this game should have ever been. And you have those who don't want that, essentially. It's just, and then of course these games always have to follow some really annoying trope. But again, we're not going to get into all that. Long story short, gaming journalists being the shit that they are, they were complaining that this game isn't political enough, and in my opinion, I think the game was great. Gameplay was a little spotty at best. I mean, I did have some performance issues, so that was a problem. But that aside, overall, it was pretty decent. I enjoyed it. It was a good experience. I didn't, you know, have any other problems outside of that. But other than all that said and done, it was a good story. Would I ever give it another playthrough? Maybe at some point in the future. I do feel like Mafia games tend to be a one-and-done deal. Like, you played it, you finished it, you know the story, okay, cool, move on with life. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I feel about the Mafia games. Is there anything inherently wrong with them? No, but again, I just don't really see too many playthroughs. There's not really a need to go back and play again. There's no challenge, there's no Easter eggs that I'm aware of. So with that said, I mean, once again, this is gaming journalists being the shitheads that they tend to be, you know, and I'm not really surprised in the slightest, go figure, but what else is new in this day and age? Gaming journalists just can't be happy that a game is good. But I digress. Going into it, though, the House of the Dead 2 remake was honestly shit. Now, I did play the demo for the channel. If you're curious and want to check that out, I have a video for it. But, yeah, the game was overall just shit, to say the least. And it's really disappointing because I was really excited for it. In my opinion, House of the Dead 2 was honestly my favorite House of the Dead. And for it to be as crap as it was really disappointing. I was honestly very disappointed. Why was it crap? Well, first of all, in a weird way, even on the hardest difficulty, it was too easy. That's one issue right there off the bat. It just felt easier than what the original game was. On top of that, the biggest killer of the game, I would say, in my opinion, was the voice acting. I know what you're going to say. Nick, wasn't the original voice acting shit to begin with? Actually, that's why it was good. It was weird. There was a certain cheese to it that made it enjoyable. The whole, really bad voice acting is ultimately what made it fun. That's what made it good. Because it was something to kind of laugh at. Like, the game was trying to be serious, but, it wasn't serious. The way it felt was like the voice actors were trying to really make this a serious thing, but failing miserably at it. And in a weird way, that's ultimately what made it good. It didn't take itself seriously when it tried to take itself. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that cheese is just ultimately what made it a good game. That's why I personally enjoyed it, why I liked it. And I do remember having fond memories of it on the occasion playing it with my father in the arcades. I remember down in the first level, there's this kid that just suddenly bursts out of a door running from the zombies. And as a kid, I always shot that fucking kid. Every time he popped out, my dumbass just said, "Oh, shoot it!" And I shot it like, oh, it was a kid. Oops. Like, I domed him every time. And I had dead-eye aim on that kid, too. It was always a headshot right between the eyes. Every time. Every time, without fail. But anyway. So, what would end up happening is that this game released, and it kind of was shit. Like I said, it was too easy. Voice acting was kind of miserable, to say the least. And on top of that, the other problem, too, is that it didn't have the same kind of life in it that the original game had. So, what the original game had was certain details that helped it feel more alive, right? So, back then, if you shot a zombie, when it went down, it would kind of just melt into this pool of blood and viscera, right? The new one, they just dissolve and disappear, and that's it. There's no aftermath, really. There's nothing there. It's just them disappearing. On top of that, there was also other little details, too. Like, if you shot them and they went into, like, a body of water, like a river or something, instead of them just disappearing, their blood and whatnot came up onto the surface of the water, and then that eventually disappeared. So it just felt like you had some kind of interaction with the map. Like, it felt like you were doing something, right? This game got rid of that. That doesn't happen anymore. That's not a thing anymore. Which, honestly, that sucks. It feels like this game is just missing out on critical details that overall make it feel alive, right? So take Left 4 Dead, for example. The original Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, the reason why those games felt so good, whether it was shooting or engaging with the zombies or things like, just in general, the reason why it always felt good was simply for the fact that when they made Left 4 Dead, all of the zombies, like the way they behaved, that wasn't animated, that was motion captured. When you would shoot a zombie and they always had that, like, that just great reactiveness, I guess that would be the terminology to use, just the way they would react when you shot them, that was motion captured. They had some dude pretend like he was being shot to give the impression, to give that impression, to really make it feel alive, to make it feel like you were actually shooting something. And then there was Back 4 Blood, which missed the mark completely. When you shot a zombie, all their animations were just that, animated. They missed why Left 4 Dead was so good. They missed the mark on what made Left 4 Dead great, and that's ultimately what ended up killing that game. when you have little details that overall build the world and just build the game itself, that's what overall makes a major difference. And that's something that I think House of the Dead is missing. So, again, little things, cheesy, crappy voice acting ultimately helped the game in a weird way because it's kind of goofy. And not for nothing, I think, who is it? I think Sega. I think they know that the voice acting was shit. So because of that, ever since then, the voice acting in all of their House of the Deads were really crap. But it was a level of cheese you came to expect from House of the Dead. It was just this level of just, we don't give a shit, that you came to expect. And that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, for like, I know I normally talk about like quality control. I think companies need to be more concerned about what they're releasing and things like that, because again, quality control. But this is one of those situations where, in a weird way, it worked out better. You know, it's weird to say that, but sometimes having jank makes it better because I guess it gives it this certain character, this certain quality of life, you know, this simplicity to it. I guess that's the best way to really put it, because there's no other word I can really use for it other than simplicity and quality of life. Another issue that this game has is lighting effects, right? Or just lack thereof. So one problem that is persistent is that as you're playing the game, the environments don't really feel as alive. They don't feel natural. They don't feel proper, simply for the very fact that you can't see them. Half the time, the maps are either really dark, all have the same color. Like, one map is entirely just poop brown. Another one is just black. You can't see anything. Maybe another one is just blue. But it's such a prominent color issue that you miss details. So the original maps, again, felt proper. They felt like what you'd expect. Like, you were in Venice, I believe, for the entirety of the game. And you felt like you were where you belonged. You know what I mean? You felt like you were in Venice. And in this game, you really can't tell where the hell you are because the backgrounds are so dark, you can't see what's going on. You can't see the surrounding regions. So, that all said, it just feels like the game is a pale imitation of its original self. That's really what it is. In my opinion, I think what they should have probably done is don't even bother remaking the game. Just make it work for PC. Give it to us for like $5 and then call it a day. That's all they should have done with House of the Dead. That would have made everybody's lives 3 times easier. It would have given us the product that we originally wanted. Not Konami, but Sega makes a little bit of extra cash on the side. And in the end of the day, nobody's mad. That's what they should have done. Instead, they decided to try to remake the game. And on top of that, too, they made some weird decisions for the characters. Like, for some reason, Goldman now has a southern accent. I don't know why they did that. And in a weird way, this is going to sound stupid. I know this is a weird thing to complain about. But for some reason, some of the audio is actually more clear. And it just doesn't sound proper. I know that sounds weird to say that because, like, you know, why would you not want clearer audio? But like I said, it's a weird thing to complain. I know, but that's just genuinely what it is. Overall, House of the Dead 2's remake is just very, very disappointing. It's kind of one of those things. The best way I could describe it is, it's one of those things that you remember what you want. It's a reminder, hey, remember the thing you wanted? Guess what? You're not getting it. You can't have it. That's what it is. And honestly, it's sad. It sucks, because, like, the things that we want, we can't have because these companies don't know how to give it to us. I will say, though, on the bright side, House of the Dead 1 Remake, someone did go ahead and make a full VR conversion mod. So you can play the entire game properly in VR with it actually tracking your remote, which is absolutely insane. And I definitely intend on playing it. I just need to figure out how to install and download it. But I digress. That is definitely something that's going to come to the channel at some point when I have time. Honestly, maybe tomorrow I'll do that. But anyway, Now, people did complain about House of the Dead 1's remake, and I think the reason why publicly it didn't get as much backlash as House of the Dead 2 is because House of the Dead 2 was more readily accessible to everybody. House of the Dead 1 was kind of just there, and most people often, in my opinion, forget about it. Nobody really ever talks about House of the Dead 2. I'm sorry, nobody ever really talks about House of the Dead 1. It's usually House of the Dead 2 that people are talking about. Whenever you have like fond memories of the House of the Dead, it's usually House of the Dead 2 because that was the one that honestly I feel like they put the most work into it. House of the Dead 3 was good, but I think it was the start, right? Like kind of like the beginning of the end because I remember correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like House of the Dead 3 had more censorship than 2. 1 was definitely balls to the wall. It did whatever the hell it wanted, which was fine. And House of the Dead 2 didn't care. It just had fun. House of the Dead 3 started the censorship, and then 4 kind of just continued on. And then after that, the zombies just started disappearing. Credit where credit is due. It is very possible the reason why the House of the Dead 2 remake is as lackluster as it is probably because of censorship issues. For some reason, Japanese products are very keen on not having grotesque violence. Which is kind of weird when you think about it. Okay, so let's just go into this. There is an anime. I don't remember the name of it, but it's coming out. And the plot of it is that I don't know if they're high school or college. I pray to God that they're college. But there are these school students who are on an island. And the school is on an island, but it's not your average school. This school heavily not only encourages and forces premarital sex. Like, there's a scene where all the characters are just banging each other in the hallways. Just all going right at it. And the main character is trying to maintain his virginity till marriage. Yeah, so that is a thing. So my criticism of Japanese, I guess, companies is that they're cool at sex. You know, if they want to show off titties, that's all well and good. But heaven forbid there's gore. Now, in a weird way, the US is the pure opposite of that. While the Japanese are very much more pro-sex than the U.S. is, or I guess if you want to say we're more comfortable, I'm sorry, they're more comfortable with sex than we are. We're also more comfortable with gore than they are, which, it's weird. I don't know why the differentiation. Granted, I am aware that Japan is having a population crisis, and, you know, I would imagine their focus on sex is because of that, to, in a weird way, try to encourage to help the population. So it is probably a population reason that's why they do it. But it's still weird because it's like, I'm sorry, let's face it, there's going to be violence in media, and I feel like censorship like that is just really annoying. But yeah, it gets really annoying because if they're not cool with it and they're making something that's going to be for international markets like House of the Dead, ultimately you're just kind of like, you're watering down the overall product. You're taking away what the game is, and it sucks. It does, just because they don't want to, they want to show someone getting their head blown off. Granted, maybe that makes me a sick bastard for wanting to see that, but yeah, leave it to Japan. Anyway, going forward, my overall opinion of the House of Dead 2 remake, just where I'm going to leave it, is it sucks. It's just not what it should have been. It is a pale imitation of its former self, and I think that they screwed up. Now, supposedly, the developers that are working on the remake are trying to do what they can to correct it. So I'm very, very hopeful. I am praying that they recognize where they went wrong. They listen to fans. They correct everything. They correct the scenery. They bring back gore the way it should have been. But honestly, considering the way House of the Dead 1's remake was, the fact that it did have that weird fade out with their characters, when the guy would die, they would just kind of disappear into the ether. The fact that that was a thing, I am going to assume that they're not going to be fixing it. I'm going to assume that that game is just going to be what it is, and that's what it'll be. It's depressing to think that, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful at the very least that they will go ahead and fix the game at the very least. But with that said and established, tell me your thoughts in the comments section between the Mafia game, the new Mafia, and the new House of the Dead. What do you guys think? Have you ever played the original House of the Dead? Have you played the other Mafia games? What do you think? Are they worth your time? Did you enjoy them? Have you played them? Tell me your thoughts. But going forward, there is new news. Metal Gear Solid Delta's remake. The game is fucking fantastic, personally. I loved it to pieces. I think all the new things that they've added for the game have ultimately really improved. Like, it's things that, in my opinion, the original game should have had. But granted, older hardware wouldn't be able to handle that sort of stuff. I digress. The remake is amazing. Why is it? Well, for one, the game looks absolutely beautiful. It is what I wanted, in my opinion. But the other thing, too, that they added is the way the camouflage system works. So, now the way camouflage works is because one reason the game that's great is that when you have Snake being chased by guards, you can have him roll around in the mud, and the mud will actually get stuck onto his body, and that'll act as camouflage. That'll actually aid the camouflage that you have. So, if you have him using the black camo uniform, that plus the mud, you can ultimately increase your camouflage to better help hide from the guards. On top of that, just overall mechanics just feel better. I know this is going to be a strange criticism comparatively, or a strange comment compared to what I just said about House of the Dead, but the new controls actually make it easier. Now, does being easier necessarily make it better or worse? Yes and no, right? So again, House of the Dead, it being easier kind of takes away from it, because all it is an on-rail shooter. By getting rid of some of the difficulty that the original game had, you are ultimately making it... You're taking away from what the game was. That's what I'm trying to say. Instead, for Metal Gear Solid Delta, by them, making the controls easier, you are making the game more approachable for new players. So this isn't a matter of taking away from the game. In my opinion, this is just making it more approachable, and it's just easier to control. The original controls for Metal Gear Solid were really annoying. It had these kind of weird, dare I say, tank controls almost. That's the best way I could describe how it felt playing. And on top of that, too, it did add a certain level of complexity that kind of just made it more annoying at times. Don't get me wrong, I love Metal Gear Solid as a series, but some of the controls were not the best, and it is nowadays, you could say, dated. But with that said, the new remake is amazing. However, Konami has to Konami, because what the fuck else is new? Konami's got to screw up somehow, some way, shape, or form, and it was the collector's edition that they fucked up with. So what did they do? Well, recently, I managed to get my hands on a collector's edition. When the game first got announced that it was having a collector's, I was super hyped. However, unlucky for me, I missed it. I wasn't able to get it, and I missed out, which really did suck. But, as I always say, it be what it be. I took the loss for what it was and just went on with my day. But what ended up happening was a friend of a friend. I wouldn't really call the guy my friend. But anyway, we're not getting into that. Personal problems, we're not getting into it. He reaches out to him saying, yo, if you need a collector's edition for Metal Gear, I got a spare. So Danny tells me that he's got it, and I'm like, alright, awesome. Hey, by the way, can you ask him if he has one that maybe I can grab too, if he's got a spare at his store? And sure enough, he did. So me and Danny both managed to get our hands on the collector's edition of Metal Gear Solid Delta, which both of us were super hyped about. I got it, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, do I want to open it? Do I not want to open it? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Contemplating. What do I do? What do I do? So I chose to leave it sealed for now until I decided where I want to put it and how I want to display it, or if I want to display it at all. As this is, as time is going on, I came across a video of someone complaining, saying that the Delta Remakes Collector's Edition is absolute garbage. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell happened? What am I expecting? Did they pull a Bethesda and it's got mold? Like, what happened? Apparently, So what the collector's edition comes with is a terrarium with Snake in it. So effectively, think a clear plastic rectangle with Snake in it up against the tree, with him on his radio. So if you remember in the very beginning of the game, Snake loses his backpack on a tree, and he's got to go get it back. So effectively, it's that tree with a bunch of foliage and Snake on his knee, radioing into the Colonel. That's the collector's edition. That's what it looks like. And it comes with a steel case for the game, a patch, and that's really it. But the problem with the collector's edition that people are reporting is that apparently you have to assemble the collector's edition yourself, which it's not inherently a bad thing. The Far Cry 6 collector's edition made you assemble the flamethrower that it came with. So, for context, the Far Cry 6 collector's edition came with a replica of the flamethrower that you can use in the game, but you had to assemble it, which it's understandable. It's kind of a big model, and trying to put that whole thing in a box would be very unwieldy and kind of annoying. So I can totally understand why they would probably want to put that in a box in separate pieces. I can get that. I can totally understand that. But that's not really this case. Because the problem is, not only do you have to assemble it, but the foliage that's in the box is not secure. So, one user had to basically secure the foliage around the tree, like the plants and shit, with their own glue. So Konami doesn't even give you the proper materials to put this thing together. On top of that, Snake himself kind of looks like crap. The problem is this figure is meant to be seen at a distance. It is not meant for up-close viewing. That sounds really stupid, I know, but the best way I can describe the way Snake looks, well, some people are describing it as Snake from Wish.com. Like a cheap Chinese knockoff that you would buy on Wish.com. That's what it looks like. Now, this collector's edition does run you at about $200. I think I spent about $220 total. So yeah, for $200, for $220, you are getting a pale imitation of Snake with a terrarium that its foliage is not secure, that you have to secure yourself. Overall, the plants don't even look that good either. Like, it's just not a great looking figure. And what me and Danny are hoping is that Konami will see this and they'll end up doing like Bethesda with the Power Armor edition for Fallout 76, where they'll do damage control and just go, okay, cool, we're going to end up either offering refunds or we'll offer a replacement. I'm hoping that Konami decides, all right, we screwed up, so anybody who's not happy with the Snake figure, we'll send you a better looking version. You just got to send us the shitty ones back. I hope that's what they do. Will they do it? Probably not. Knowing Konami, I mean, Konami's got a Konami. That's really what it comes down to, is they have to be the shitheads. That is what it is. Will I refund it? I don't know. I'm still thinking that one over. Like, there is a part of me that when I saw the figure, immediately my brain went to go for a refund. But I don't know. Like, it's still Metal Gear Solid. It's still, something official. So on one hand, I'm like, God no. On the other hand, it's like, it's bad, but I don't know. Like, I guess there's a part of me that's hopeful. I think the reason why I want to keep it is because I really did want this when it first got announced, and I was upset that I missed it. And now to know that it was shit and I got hyped basically for nothing, it's kind of almost like that. I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it. It's like, you get promised something, you don't get what was promised, instead you get a pale imitation of it, but you're almost determined to be like, no, I waited for this, I wanted it, and god damn it, I'm gonna make the most of it. Like, that's the best way I can describe this, that's the best way I can describe it, is I want to make the most of it. That's really what it is. That sounds stupid, I know, and I guess that's the reason why some people do defend the products that they do, even if it's stupid, but I think really what I'm holding out for is the hope that they will end up correcting it. Now, I know GameStop's policy, yes, I bought this game from GameStop. GameStop's policy is something to the effect of, I believe it was 7 days refund. Which this came out on the 28th, so today's the 1st. That would be oh crap. I think I'm already past that. Oh, I'm already past it. I think. Wait. I'm 4 days in at this point. So, I mean, I could still refund it. I still have a couple days. But, I don't know. I'm going to give it a day or two. See if Konami says anything. Maybe they will. I don't know if it's enough backlash for them to do something. We'll see. But I know a lot of people aren't happy about it. I'm not thrilled. It's kind of to the point where I almost really don't want to open the box now, just because of the fact it's like, okay, I know I'm going to be disappointed. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You know, you can't be disappointed if you never open it in the first place. Again, that's stupid, but you know, I hope you understand what I'm going with that. But anyway, that all said, yeah, final thoughts on that. I'm just going to hold out for hope that Konami does the right thing. Will they? Probably not. But here's to hoping, right? But with that all said, lads, I think that's where we're going to end up leaving this one for today, because I know the video itself cuts off at about 40 minutes. So with that all said, thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I appreciate each and every one of you, because without you, this community honestly just does not exist. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. But other than that, what helps us out is bell icon and comments, as that is a great way to keep up with the channel and its ongoings. If you only do one or the other, if not both, YouTube may not notify you, so the best way to stay notified is to do both a bell icon and leave a comment. Other than that, likes and dislikes help us to grow. Feel free to check out our Discord. We're all nerds. We're all a bunch of goofballs, so pop in there and say hey. But other than that, we also have TikTok, Twitch, Rumble. I think I have Instagram. Yeah, I got Instagram now too. So we got a bunch of stuff, so feel free to check us out over there. But with that said, thank you everyone so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I will see you all on the next one. Have a great night, guys. See you later. And here's hoping to God I remember to disable my camera's microphone. So, see you around, guys. Have a great night.